Get a ribeye. Oh, yeah.
Or more commonly, what you're thinking. Minuet and G. Bach. Here in the movies. And that kind of sound. That's what it was originally designed to do. But some old blues guys found out if you haul off and really draw on the lower end of the harmonica, this funny thing happens. It sounds like this. And then when you get up top, the same thing happens, but on the blow notes. Okay, so it's like you you can get other notes that were previously considered, and when I say previously, I mean like late 1800s, the very beginning of the instrument, were considered not there, okay? For my money, and I'm not certain, and if anybody knows differently, they can correct me, it was the really old blues guys that were the first guys to do this, like D. Ford Bailey, and some of the, and guys even older than that, and Jazz Gillum and stuff, the guys who played a lot of train type of stuff. And those were the first cats to do this. If you like that style of harmonica playing, there's actually only a few people left in the world that can really do it in justice, and I'm not one of them. One of the guys' name is Joe Falisco, is amazing at that old pre-war style harmonica. Those records are very hard to find, but they are out there, and you can find them, and it's all solo harmonica stuff. So if you're a real geek, I'll tell you what, that stuff's amazing, amazing music. And there's so much stuff going on that even I'm unaware of, and every year I listen to it, more is revealed, you know. Anyway, the bending of the notes, I think that those were the first guys to do that. So, you know, what happens is, that's the first step, is you're able to get a single note either by lip pursing or tongue blocking. And if you weren't clear on my definitions of those, just look them up online. And then the second step is bending a note. And that's, you know, the first thing you would start doing, was just kind of doing that. And then the next step after that is isolating those notes so that they don't sound like bend notes. I mean, you want to be able to use the effect, obviously. I mean, it's one of the greatest things about the harmonica, or especially the diatonic, because the chromatic doesn't do that as much. It'll bend a little bit, but not into another note, okay? I mean, there are guys that will argue that, of course, they'll argue. Everybody will argue, but you know what? It doesn't. It doesn't do it like this. And that's the most cool thing about it, is it's sort of this fretless little thing. You get the idea, you can really explore, yeah. You can't really do that on a harmonica. You know, you can't do that on a piano. And you can't even really do it as much on a guitar. You know, it's just a cool instrument. And that's one of the best things about it. It's also one of the most challenging things, because those bend notes are very fussy. And when you start to get good at doing them, the first thing you want to do is be able to use them as actual notes. Not so much what I was just doing there, which is really, you know. But like just in a blues context. There's three different bend, well, there's one bend on the one draw. By one bend, I mean a half step. The smallest degree of measurement in Western music, the Jaws theme song. Okay, and then on the second hole, there's two different bends. And then on the third hole, there's three. And then on the fourth, there's only one again. And then on the five, it's similar to a chromatic harmonica, there's not an actual bend note, but there is an inflection. And on the sixth, there's another half step. Seven blow, another inflection only. Eight blow, only one note. 9 blow, 1 note. It's like. It's a showstopper when you get both, I'll tell you. Now, most guys do this. 1 note. And then go down again. The real happening cats. Get 2. One of the guys that's a traditional blues player right now, who's getting what's called microtonal notes. Knows is this guy Mitch Kashmar that just came out on the Delta Groove label a couple of years ago. He is really killing first position stuff, that upper register, like to the likes of which I've never heard ever before. And I'm sure Howard could do it. By Howard, we just refer to him as Howard in the harmonica world, by the way. Same as Howard Levy. Okay, and he is the most. There will never be a better, technically, a more advanced harmonica player, ever. I don't care what anyone says, the world will eat itself before there is another guy that good. You know, we'll be like back to caveman times before, you know, somebody comes along like that. So, anyway, that's Levy came along about 15 years ago. He'd been doing it prior to that, but it became aware to the general public, I guess around, oh God, am I that old? Already? I'm 33. So I don't know. I guess maybe around 90? Or does anybody know what year Harmonica Jazz came out? The cassette? 90? 89, 90? Anyway, he came out with this album and he was playing all of the notes. Now, even with the bend notes, you were still classical stuff. There was even blues stuff you couldn't play, you know? And this guy came along and he had developed this technique called overblowing. And I thought, I was thinking when I got out I was going to quit harmonica because I was listening to jazz when I was in there, this late night show, and I was really falling in love with a lot of the music that I was listening to, and I was very disappointed that this instrument couldn't do that. And even with the bend notes and everything, and I thought about getting out and playing tenor saxophone instead, and you know, still playing harp, but you know, trying to, over the course of 10 or 15 years, make that my main instrument rather than this. And then, you know, I heard Howard doing this. And I was like, wow, it can be done. So this is what gives you all the chromatic stuff that you hear jazz players. And you can get all of those notes. Thanks. Thank you so much. Now, it's like a really difficult technique to learn initially. And a lot of people will tell you that it requires, am I running over time? No. Okay. And a lot of people will tell you that it requires tweaking your harmonica. Okay, they would be absolutely correct. However, the person that showed it to me, his name was Adam Gusto, and I learned it way before I started using it, or way before I thought it was possible to do everything that I just did with it, or the stuff that I hear Howard doing with it, you know. And I think it's the wave of the future for the instrument. They've invented some other instruments that do it. Of course, the chromatic does it with a button, but it's, again, the chromatic doesn't go.
Yeah, you can't do that. You have to have a release from the artist to do that.
It doesn't make that noise.
So I'm going to have to
And then the other instrument they had, you need a lot of swinging stuff like that. this before this gig, and now it's worse. And just a lot of that stuff. And it's, you know, when I was growing up and learning harmonica, I spent various phases of my life sounding like one guy, you know, and I spent most of that time sounding like Little Walter, and then second to him, I spent a lot of time.
Oh no, I heard about a new club opened up over there in Cedar Rapids.
Gibby still got the dates and now
16, 17. I got a new agency, so maybe they
got a new partner.
You treat me so great, baby. Girl, what in the world? Honey, you can walk away, leave.
How long did Rachel spend?
I can't remember what else.
Davenport, and we have the Mississippi Valley Blues Society President, Rick Burris. So, to start off, I'd like to introduce Shirley Mae Owens. Life like it is. The blues will never die. The blues is here to stay because your whole life ain't nothing but the blues.
I'm just surprised. I didn't know this. I was told I'd be an award here in your town.
To her art form. Alberta, it's my honor to present you Mississippi Valley Blues Society River Road Lifetime Achievement Award. AA.
This place. Thank you to the Blues Society that's being in this place. You know it came out.
Thank you. All the way from the beat. Every beat.
Nothing but the blues. I know all about it, really.
1, 2, you know what to do.
I'm a dirty old lady. Dirty old lady. Oh, well. He may be a man, but I just see me sometime. He may be a man, but I just see me sometime.
Make sure you do a nice, so we can do a postcard. The bridge is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.